This is Bedtime Stories, Grown-Up Edition, The Middle, Part 3. When we left off, Tru had saved Woody's oldest sister Zyla's life, and in the process, she also saved the life of his ex-girlfriend Tasha, his younger cousin Little Dre, and two of his other cousins. The very thing that Zyla and Tasha made fun of, Tru's skiing experience and emergency pack, were the very reasons why Woody's family vacation didn't turn into a family funeral. When it was all said and done, they lost 2 of the 6 or 7 rented SUVs, and no one lost their lives. When the doctor came out to give an update on Zyla's condition, he commended Tru's efforts. And when he was done, the family all praised Tru for her heroic efforts and Woody for picking a winner. And even Tasha thanked her for getting her out of that car before the avalanche. But Tru wasn't looking for credit, and she had no energy to bask in the glory of having saved the day. And Woody knew something was wrong when Tru didn't even react to the praise that he was receiving for picking her. Tru was too busy trying not to have a panic attack. She hated hospitals, so her only focus was how soon she'd be able to get out of that hospital and back to the cabin. The last time she was in a hospital, she was in college. Her boyfriend Bo had ghosted her, and after several months of no contact, there was a knock on the dorm room suite that Tru shared with Stephanie. When Tru opened the door, on the other side were her parents. They'd come to bear some bad news. Bo had been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. In the spring, when she'd had a hard time getting in contact with him, and he was nonchalant about her not coming home for spring break, it was because he'd recently been diagnosed. He just started treatment and was having a really difficult time dealing with his diagnosis. He had no idea how he was going to break the news to Tru, so his solution was to just avoid her. By the time she got home for the summer and went to visit his parents, they'd already been back and forth to Durham to support him through his treatments, and they'd also tried to encourage him to talk to Tru. But by that time, his mind was made up. He was not going to burden her with this fight. It was his to fight alone, and if he survived it, he'd double back, tell her everything, and see if they could pick up where they left off. He told his parents that she'd already had more than enough responsibility for other people's problems. She was always the go-to person, and if she got wind of what he was going through, she'd drop everything, put her own life on hold, and dedicate herself to getting him well. It was bad enough that cancer was derailing his dreams. He didn't want them to derail hers too. He didn't realize that the plans that they'd made for their lives as a couple were the totality of her dreams. Bo was it for Tru. Before she met him, she didn't have any dreams of her own. And the life that they dreamed up and mapped out together was the end-all, be-all of Tru's life plan. She'd gone to LSU because her best friends were going there. She'd majored in business administration because her parents said that that was what was best for the family restaurant. And her plans to manage a restaurant when she moved to Durham was the extent of her imagination. She hadn't imagined that she could do anything other than manage a restaurant. Her whole life had been about what everybody else wanted, what they needed, who they needed her to be, and what they needed her to do. She had to share her parents with her 4 sisters and their restaurant. She had to share her best friends with one another. Bo was the only person she never had to share. So he was right when he said that she would have dropped everything to be there for him, to take care of him and support him. Because she would have wanted to help him through it, to help him fight it. But that wouldn't have derailed her dreams or her plans, because life with him was the plan. Bo was the first person to ever want Tru for Tru. And other than her 2 best friends, there wasn't another person in the world who didn't look at her and see what she could do for them, reduce her to her appearance, or underestimate her because of her size. Bo was the first and only person to ever give her a nickname. Her family only ever called her Tru Joi. People outside of her family called her Tru, and Bo called her Lil Bit. So when Tru told her parents to take her to Durham immediately, she was pissed. And on the way, her parents did their best to convince her not to be upset with Bo for choosing not to share his diagnosis, or his parents for choosing to keep his secret, or with God for letting it happen. Her mother told her that she had to respect his right to decide for himself who he would and who he wouldn't share his truth with and the journey. And her father told her that she needed to just appreciate that she was being included now and focus on preparing herself for what she was walking into. She was going to need to show up as her best self, be supportive of the man she loved, kind and generous to his parents, and supportive of him and them through what was likely his last days on Earth. So by the time the plane landed, Tru had her mask on. The mask that she'd been perfecting her whole life. The mask that most middle children wear. Tru had learned to embrace her invisibility, to accept that her feelings and desires were irrelevant, and to focus on who other people needed her to be. And those skills were needed now. But when Tru walked into Bo's hospital room, her mask almost slipped. Cancer had ravaged Bo's body. He was a shell of the man that he'd been. He was a tall, chocolate, athletic, muscular, beautiful man with a warm smile, kind eyes, and the biggest heart that Tru'd ever seen on a man. And as sweet as he was also nothing to be played with. He could go 12 rounds with the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, and he'd proven that he was big enough, strong enough, and tough enough to do just that. The only reason why he didn't go pro was that having your brains rattled in a boxing ring was detrimental to a medical career. The irony was that when Bo started medical school, his plan was to specialize in cancer treatment. And there he was, with no hair as a result of the chemo, blisters on his lips, eyelids, and fingertips from the radiation, and looking like a skeleton in a bag of skin. And his appearance was even more shocking because unlike his parents, Tru didn't have the benefit of observing the gradual progression of the disease. So she couldn't help but compare what she was seeing that day to the man she saw over winter break. When Bo's parents left Bo and Tru alone, Bo struggled to talk, and he said, between labored breaths and a cracking voice, a little bit, "It's gonna be okay. Don't be angry. I couldn't hijack your life for months just for it to turn out like this. I fought as hard and for as long as I could. But I knew deep down inside all along that I wasn't gonna win. I knew you'd have moved heaven and earth just for me, and it would have all been for nothing. You didn't deserve that. You spent your life thus far doing what other people needed and being who they needed you to be. So this time, I figured somebody should choose you. Promise me that when I'm gone, you'll choose you too. Love again, Tru. Get married. Have beautiful babies. Do all the things that we planned together. Don't close yourself off. Live, Tru. You deserve to have true joy." Not long after that, Bo died. And Tru went back to just being the middle child, the middle friend, and lonely as hell. Somehow, she went back to LSU. She threw herself into her studies, showed up for her friends, and became an absolute and complete beast when it came to men. Men couldn't offer her nothing but an orgasm. She made it a point to ride them hard and put them up wet. She didn't date, and she did not have time for a boyfriend. After graduation, she went back to her hometown and did precisely what was expected of her. She started running her parents' restaurant. In her free time, she hung out with Stephanie and Rennie if they were available. When she had a break or got a vacation, she traveled. Most of her trips were with Stephanie and Rennie, but she had no problem traveling solo. She loved to people watch, and if she laid eyes on a man that tickled her fancy, she had no problem treating him like a car and taking him for a test drive. One time on one of her solo trips to LA, Tru made the mistake of going to a man's house, and in the end, she had to fight for her life to escape. The man ended up dead. She ended up interrogated, and after several days in jail and a hefty sum on a lawyer, she was eventually released and returned to North Carolina. That experience taught her two things. Number one, never give a man a second chance. And number two, always book a room for her entertainment so that she didn't have to go to a man's house and he didn't know where she was laying her head. In the middle of Tru's trip down memory lane, she was brought back to the present by Woody saying, "Lil' mama, you good?" When Tru said she was, Woody said, "You sure? You don't look good." Tru said, "Gee, thanks. I'm sore. I'm tired. I'm hungry. And I hate hospitals." Woody nodded and turned to the family and said, "I'm sure that those of you who were in the SUV that crashed want to get back to the cabin, get some food, get cleaned up, and get into bed." Lil Dre said, "Yeah, and I want to take this medicine they prescribed me because my legs is hurting again." Woody said, "Since we're down 2 whips and the rental car company can't bring us no replacements until tomorrow because of the storm, me and Uncle DJ might as well take whoever's ready to go back to the cabin now, and we can come back for everybody else." Several of the members of the family, including Miss Charlotte, Zora, and Woody's Aunt Victoria, said that they wanted to stay and see about Zyla and take turns sitting with her overnight. And everyone else said that they were ready to go back to the cabin. When they pulled up outside of the cabin and everybody started getting out of the SUVs, Woody put his hand on Tru's arm to signal to her to wait a minute. When they were alone, he looked at her and said, "Thank you for everything you did for my peoples today. I truly appreciate it. The average chick would have hung back. Had you done that, I'm sure there would have been casualties." Tru, embarrassed by the praise, cut him off and said, "I did what people are supposed to do. I've been in some interesting situations, so I've just learned to be prepared." Woody said, "I feel that, but the way my sister and Tasha treated you, they ain't deserve your help, and you helped them anyway. That was unexpected, Lil' Mama, and it was admirable as hell." Tru said, "I did what people are supposed to do." Woody said, "And I think you might have missed your calling, too. You shouldn't be taking lives. You should be saving them." Hearing that, Tru jumped out of the truck. She was moving so fast that she almost lost her footing. When Woody got out of the truck and came around behind her, he got there just in the nick of time to catch her before she bust her behind. As he caught her, he said, "Damn, what I say now, Lil' Mama?" "What's to you?" Tru said, "Nothing. It's been a long day, and I just want it to be over. Keep me posted on your sister's condition." Then she pulled away from him and headed into the house. Woody said, "I'll be back, and when I come back, we need to talk." When Woody made his second trip back to the cabin with the last load of his family members, he headed to the room that he was supposed to share with Tru. Seeing all of her clothes that she discarded in the room, he realized that she had to be nearby. And when he saw that the bathroom door was closed, he realized that she had to be inside. When he knocked on the door, he said, "Lil' Mama, it's me." Getting no answer, he pushed the door open. And inside, he saw Tru, neck deep in the clawfoot tub full of bubbles. Tru said, "You couldn't have heard me say come in, 'cause I didn't." Woody said, "My bad. You good?" Tru said, "I just need to be alone, Lil' Dro." Woody laughed and said, "Oh, I'm Lil' Dro now. Okay, little bit, I'll take that." Tru said, "What did you just call me?" Woody said, "Lil' Mama?" Tru said, "No, you didn't. Where'd you hear that?" Confused, Woody said, "I don't even know what I just called you." Tru said, "You called me Lil' Bit. No one's called me that in a long time. And there's only one person in the world who ever did. So why did you call me that?" Hearing the pain and suspicion in Tru's voice, Woody just shrugged and said, "No reason, Lil' Mama. In my mind, it's all the same. Up top, a nigga might call you Lil' Mama. Down south, he might call you Lil' Bit. Mama, Lil' Bit, they both common." Tru took a deep breath, gave it some thought, and realized that Woody was right. While Bo was the only one who called her Lil' Bit, she had heard quite a few women of petite stature referred to as Lil' Bit over the years. Then Woody said, "Talk to me. I ain't never seen you like this. I could deal with the attitude, but I don't know what to do with the blues. Then he watched as tears streamed down Tru's face. Unable to stand the sight of the tears, Woody quickly crossed the room, reached down, and wiped Tru's tears away. But that just caused her to cry even harder. So he bent down on one knee, reached in the tub, pulled Tru to his chest, and held her while she cried like a baby. As her tears soaked the front of his shirt, and the water from the tub soaked his sleeves, he kissed Tru on the forehead and on the top of her head and just held her.